The championship fight continues to close up in the International GT Open ahead of race 2 in round 3 of the 2025 season here at the HOCKENHEIMRIng. 4.574 kilometers or 2.842 miles in old money. 17 turns for the drivers to navigate over the course of the next 60 minutes of racing. And as you can see, after the wet qualifying this morning, conditions have deteriorated somewhat. The rain is coming down in its droves, and that is just going to make life even harder for these drivers, who some were saying we might even have a dry end to the race. That looks somewhat ambitious now. Hopefully we won't see too much action from the circuit safety car out there. But this was the car that was victorious yesterday and the top car in qualifying as well. The guest entered Pro Garage 59 car was Marvin Kirchhofer qualifying the car yesterday. This morning, Thomas Fleming. And he starts on pole position ahead of the reigning champion, Christopher Haase, over at the front of the grid. It's Chris Stevens up here in the commentary box alongside George Morgan. George, it's looking not so great out there.
Good day for swimming and nice weather for ducks as well. But we're now panning across the grid. Alex Fontana putting up another brilliant display as well so far, putting yet another immense qualifying stint together to put himself onto the second row. He's going to be aligned this time with Max Gertz, who arrived on the scene back at Spa-Francorchamps after Matteo Cairoli took the opening round of the championship alongside Levente Reves, who arrives into Hockenheim, the championship leader. And just ahead of them as well, we arrive at yet another Mercedes-AMG GT3, this time with Ralph Aaron at the wheel. Pulled off a massive comeback yesterday to finish inside that top 10, which was absolutely magnificent on part of him and his teammate, of course, Marcelo Ramirez. Further back, Mathies Lismont coming in for Santalok, making this a pro entry, and Santalok witnessing an upturn in their fortunes through this German weekend.
Yes, not so much yesterday in the race after they were punted by Carl Bennett, but a spectacular recovery nonetheless to get inside the top 10, and very good of the mechanics there to lift the covers on that car so that we could get a peek inside. Yannick Mettler has got a busy few weeks coming up, of course, driving for SBS here. They'll be at the Spa 24 Hours, but Yannick will be racing for Get Speed in a few weeks' time. The young guns at Elite Motorsport, the team in their first year of GT3 competition, with 2 GT4 graduates in the car from the elite team in the European Championship, continuing to impress with Tom Emson starting in 8th position. The Pro-Am fight expected to be very, very strong, with 7 of those cars inside the top 15. Only 2 of the bronze drivers in the Pro-Am field are starting this race. That is Steve Yance in the number 6 Get Speed Mercedes that won yesterday, starting in 20th overall, and then Valentin Pierberg in 22nd overall. That's the car that finished 2nd in class yesterday. But they are going into this one with quite the hefty handicap of 20 seconds, as is the Pro-Am winner from yesterday. Further down the grid, Tommaso Mosca. We saw a lot of him in qualifying, wrestling with that AF Corsa run Ferrari, starting in 11th position overall in amidst the Pro-Am fight. He's got Carol Bash and Fabio Babini right in front of him. Jamie Stanley in the sister AF Corsa run number 55 car right behind him as well. Let's take a look back at what happened yesterday. It was Marvin Kirchhofer who led ahead of Fabian Schiller and Dominic Baumann going into the first corner. A very neat and tidy start that saw Tom Leben take the fight to Mertel Motorsport, but making contact with Luca Ludwig at the hairpin. That did a little bit of damage to both cars. The pit stop window opened. The driver changes took place in amongst a rain shower, and then that caught out Christian Korzanowski in one of the Aragon Lamborghinis. And we saw a full course yellow as a result of it. When we got back green racing once again, Anthony Bartone had his mirrors full of cars. That allowed Thomas Fleming to go through into the lead of the race. Christopher Haase sliced his way through at the Sachs curve with just a minor nudge to the side of the Bartone Bros Mercedes. Bartone would soon come unstuck as the cars started flying their way through. Elite Motorsport making their way through to the podium as well. But it was a maiden victory for Marvin Kirchhofer and Thomas Fleming in that guest-entered Pro car ahead of East Talent and Elite Motorsport. This is what it's done to the championship standings then. It is still Levente Reves who leads the standings, but now only by 4 points to Christopher Haase and Simon Riker. Mikey Porter and Zach Meekin remain in third, some 13 points further back, and Maxi Gertz In only the 2 races he's contested alongside Reves, got enough points for 4th so far, ahead of race 2 here in Hockenheim. The rain continues to fall. The wet tyres are being prepared. You can see the number of trolleys that are being utilised. And there's a couple of slicks on those trolleys, which I think is very, very ambitious indeed. But we will soon be going racing for the next 60 minutes in this season. And who knows what will happen. We had a full course yellow intervening in the driver change window yesterday. That benefited some. It hindered others. The safety car even things out a little bit, certainly helped out East Talent and Christopher Haase find their way through the field as well as the number 82 crew of Ralph Aron and Marcelo Ramirez climb from the penultimate row of the grid up towards the top 5. Maybe we'll see a similar maneuver. Race 2 about to get underway here in Hockenheim. The 3-minute board is shown. Here's how they line up. It is Thomas Fleming on pole position, back-to-back poles for Garage 59. Reigning champion Christopher Haase starts alongside him in the East Talent Audi. Just behind them, we have the Pro-Am pole sitter Alex Fontana in the car collection Porsche. Maxi Gertz starts the championship leading number 11 Motorpark Mercedes in 4th place. On the 3rd row of the grid, it's fellow Mercedes works driver Ralph Aron in 82 for GetSpeed. Mathis Lismore in his sub role in 6th position. Then Yannick Mettler in the Pro-Am SBS Mercedes and Tom Empson for Elite in 8th position. Then comes a couple more Pro-Am cars. Carol Bash for Olymp in their Audi. Fabio Babini for the Tsunami Racing Team in the Porsche. Just outside the top 10, we have Tommaso Mosca in the AF Corsa Ferrari. Jamie Stanley in another AF Corsa run car, the 55 car. Then Mikey Porter for Optimum Motorsport and Lucas Dunner in the Pro-Am entered Motorpark Mercedes. They'll be heading off to the road to Le Mans next week. Philippe Salacada starts the ISR Audi from 15th, and then Anthony Bartone goes from 16th in the Bartone Bros GetSpeed Mercedes. Robert Visoyu for Motorpark, number 13 in 17th. Philip Ugran in 18th in the highest placed Team Oregon car. James Kell, it was another retirement for Greystone yesterday. He starts 19th ahead of Steve Jans. He's the top bronze driver in 20th place. Amory Bondwell for BDR Grupo Prom ahead of Valentin Pierberg, another of the bronze drivers in the Pro-Am fight. He starts 22nd. In 23rd, it's Andrea Montemini in the Mertel Ferrari 488. And then double pole position for Garage 59 with Mark Sampson top in the AM class in 24th. Then Antoine Docon really struggling in the Oregon Lamborghini down in 25th. And Gino Forgione. They finished on the podium yesterday in that AF Course car. Alfredo Hernandez didn't make it to the end of the first lap yesterday. He starts 27th ahead of Stanislav Jedlinski. And then in 29th and last, it is the guest entered Yuri Navratil in the number 22 full-in race by Interaction Audi. They were also on the podium yesterday. George, the formation lap about to start. Any predictions ahead of this one, apart from, I guess, a lot of drama?
Yeah, I think we're going to be in for a real treat here because there's been rumours and murmurings inside the paddock, talk about mixed conditions. The drivers all have, should we say, intervening opinions on how this is going to unfold. Some of them considering that we could see wet conditions at the start, which is certainly prevalent here, but then later on perhaps witness the sunshine peek through the clouds, which was actually the case back on Friday when we were under free practice. So they will become quite attested to those conditions. But speaking to numerous drivers, the likes of Aaron Walker, he's hoping that the conditions are going to stay the same right through the session. But one thing we have learned from Hockenheimring, I think based on what we saw, of course, yesterday in the race when we had that brief rainstorm that came down. It came down so hard, but then almost instantaneously switch off then later on. And there were some very real conversations happening between drivers and the garage in terms of considering that wet weather tyre moving off the dries. Now we could see the alternate happening this time with drivers perhaps opting to remove the wets and move on to the dries later into the race, which could throw a mighty curveball. And you never know if we have another scenario where a full course yellow gets raised like it was yesterday, anything such as that case. Obviously, remember, the drivers can pit under that scenario. Other than that, we could yet have a safety car. Either way, it could yet throw a spanner in the works in terms of strategy. Of course, those drivers that did start with their pro driver in the Pro-Am, if there is going to be an early safety car on this stint, that's going to be a huge issue for them.
The rain here, it's a bit like a sort of faucet that you turn on very intensely for about 5 minutes and then just turn it off again. And as you can see, the sun is now starting to poke out through the clouds. So if it stays like this, then
in fact, it's just literally brightened up this second. We're just seeing it, looking at the commentary box. We're starting to see some sun rays peeking through the clouds, and it's, you know, lighting the saturation up on the circuit. We're actually seeing a lot more green now out there as opposed to grey. I'm alluding, of course, to the grass that is on the offside of the track. But of course, it's going to be a mighty task. I just want to give a hat tip as well once again to Garage 59. Back-to-back poles this weekend in their first start with this pro lineup of Marvin Kirchhofer and Thomas Fleming that was very much hashed together at the very last minute, really, based on the stories we, of course, heard from Marvin Kirchhofer, who was called up literally late in the day on Thursday night at 10 o'clock to come in for free practice the following day, obviously with Miguel Ramos out of the equation here for Garage 59 in the AM class. Of course, they're still running an AM car at Garage 59, of course, with Mark Sampson, who once again lifted the winning AM trophy aloft yesterday, and coupled alongside Alexander West, who was initially going to be stepping in alongside Thomas Fleming, but certainly on part of Garage 59, they did not miss a beat yesterday. 2 huge results for them, and they've actually just amassed their 3rd win in their history in the International GT Open. And incidentally, I want to talk about manufacturers as well, because briefly after the Spa race that we had in the 500, Mercedes had managed to equal the number of wins against McLaren based on that last win. It's now gone up again in McLaren's favour based on that Garage 59 result yesterday. So it's now 22 McLaren, 21 Mercedes.
We should keep an eye out for the newer touches of asphalt as well. They're going to be very slick in these conditions. A reminder, both the cars on the front row of the grid are taking 10 seconds of handicap in this race, and also the number 20 SPS Mercedes and the number 6 Get Speed Mercedes in the Pro-Am battle are both taking 20 seconds as well. And I think Garage 59 will have a hard job making it back-to-back AM wins, because that car is taking 15 seconds as well. We'll keep you updated on how that will unfold over the course of the next 60 minutes, but the pace car peels off to driver's right into pit lane. How much spray is going to be kicked up when the lights go out and we hit full speed in this race? Already the cars are disappearing in the spray. We're racing in Hockenheim for the 2nd time this weekend. Beautiful launch from Thomas Fleming. He leads very clearly going into the first corner. Ralph Aaron on the inside, hopping over the curbs at the first corner. A couple having to take to the runoff area. Mathis Lismont squirming away in the Santalok Audi. That has given Tom Empson the run down there, but look around the outside, Max Kurtz in the championship leading Motor Park Mercedes coming around the outside of Alex Fontana, the Pro-Am leader, and he has been able to get through on the exit of turn 4 down the Parabolica for the first time. It's Kurtz in 3rd position as we ride here with Philip Ugran in the Oregon Lamborghini coming down the Parabolica. Look at the spray, can barely see most of the field down there as Ralph Aaron tries to come around the outside as well on Alex Fontana. Both of those Mercedes having lightning starts with their factory drivers aboard. Gets very tight here at the hairpin the first time of asking a couple, utilizing the space on the left-hand side beyond the track limits. Ralph Aaron does get that move done on Alex Fontana, and so Mercedes moving forward with Motor Park in 3rd and now Get Speed in 4th.
It's how can you trust yourself in the midst of the mist? It was difficult, certainly for Carol Bash right at the start. He had to send his car and swallow up a lot of Nord curve coming through turn 1, but came out unscathed. He currently sits in 11th place as well. Still Tom Fleming up at the top. Fontana has dropped back through the order. Ralph Aaron has popped up into 4th. Gertz into 3rd place. Fontana, of course, still leading the Pro-Am fight. Dunner moves up to 15th, but already a lot of chopping and changing. Tom Empson getting a wonderful start to this race as well. He managed to get past 3 cars and move into 6.
Damage on the rear end of the Jamie Stanley 55 AF Course Ferrari we saw coming through turns 9 and 10. We got yellow flags out at turn number 12. There's one of the Oregon Lamborghinis skating through the gravel. I have a feeling that's going to be Antoine Dogan in the 63. You can just see that out of the window, and yet there at the rear of the field it is Dokan, and he's depositing all that gravel onto the racetrack now.
Yeah, so it's a bit more obviously than what we had a little bit of dirtiness appear on the track after the TCR event earlier on in the sister Oregon car. The 19 is also made as Philip Ugran.
That's the drag strip at the final 2 corners. There's no grip out there at all, so dramas for both Oregon cars on the opening lap, and they are going to be running plumb last now, I fear.
far apart from where they were back in 2022, and sequentially, well, later on as well, where they would, of course, become teams champions in later years, but they certainly are on a voyage, a journey of improvement, that's for sure. It's going to be a mission for them in this race, but a long way to go as we now watch as side-by-side Gertz and Ralph Aaron make their way out of turn 6. And now race down through towards the next right-hander. Here is the replay. Oh, my goodness, contact with the Mertel Ferrari.
Montemini.
And that's sent Dokan into the gravel trap coming out of turn 12.
How much he was spinning up the rear wheels there, and that is the sister car, Philip Ugran, just finding out there's no grip out there at all, splashing through the puddles and just ran wide, all on his own, which is a real shame to see. And because that drag strip there is just no grip on it at all when you put a bit of water down. Anybody who watched the last German Grand Prix here will know. They'll have memories of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton and Nico Hülkenberg flying through there. It looks like it's going to be game on for third position between two Mercedes factory drivers. Maxi Gertz, who's been part of that stable for a long, long time. Ralph Aaron, one of their newer recruits. Contact there between Tommaso Mosca and the rear of Fabio Babini's car that sits third in Pro-Am at the moment. Two very different lines coming out of the Sachs curve.
And that Mosca car was also given a time penalty in our last race that we had, race 1, to open up the GT Open weekend here at Hockenheimring. They don't want to suffer the same fate again this time and see themselves topple down inside this top 10, because you never know, narrow margins could come into play later into this race depending on how these conditions unfold and in terms of what happens in the overall side of the race. Now we watch them head down in towards the next right at turn 2. Still Fleming out in front. Here is the moment again. A little love tap from Tommaso Mosca on the rear left of Fabio Babini, though I'm sure Babini didn't really appreciate it. You know, even the slightest touch in conditions like this can really unsettle your race.
Especially in that rear engine Porsche, all the weight out there on the rear end. He has now made a move. They're side by side coming down the Parabolica. This is for 8th position overall. Mosca will have the inside line when they eventually get to the hairpin. They'll emerge somewhere in the spray out there, and the Ferrari on the inside will take Pro-Am, take position. And for Pro-Am, at third, it's Carol Bash trying to take advantage of that on the inside. That is his class rival that he's now battling on the exit of the hairpin. Carol Bash in a very wet qualifying session back in Portimao last year was absolutely awesome. I expect him to move forward in these conditions. He's really taking the fight to one of the most experienced drivers on the grid, who is also competing in GT Cup this weekend. He's on double duties. He'll be starting that race as well.
Throwing all shapes, Carol Bash is having a look every which way to see whether he could unseat Fabio Babini over that 9th place as they curtail through around turn 12 out of Mobile 1 now down into Sachs curve. Where they'll then take this progressive left hand. You've got to be so careful. You can still see the visible spray off the back of this elite racing Ferrari that are continuing to have a great weekend and a good season as well, with Tom Empson currently at the wheel. Of course, we'll see Tom Leben later on when the driver change window opens up, but Tom Fleming advancing now a lead of nearly, well, it is now 1.5. Now, that was 1.8. That has come down by 0.3 since we last checked, and that's because Christopher Haas has just posted a purple final sector and also, by consequence, taking the fastest lap of the race so far. So, a very good start here for Christopher Haas, so just staying with the McLaren, that's all he needs to do.
It looks like it's raining again out there, George, so conditions are going to deteriorate once again, I would have thought. Simon Riker watching on in the East Talent Garage, of course, reigning champion alongside Christopher Haas. He'll be competing in the Nürburgring 24 hours in a couple of weeks with the East Talent team in an all-Austrian lineup. Haas will be sharing a car with Luca Ludwig as well, if you want to cheer on your favourite GT Open drivers over the course of the next few weeks, with many 24-hour races to come. Mikey Porter's moved up to 11th place ahead of Matisse Lismont, according to our timing screen. Then they're just about to emerge into the spray as well. Well, there's that battle for third in Pro-Am with Carol Bash on the inside of Babini. 2 laps in a row that Babini's now been done on the inside going into that turn 6 hairpin. That's Carol Bash up into 9th position overall and third in the Pro-Am category. Yeah,
very smart play from Babini just to open up the steering. Doesn't want to get caught in a, should we say, in a massive dogfight with Carol Bash here at this very early stage of the race. Remember, this is, appreciate that obviously this is the sprint race version of the International GT Open. We have 2 endurances, obviously a season, but it's still a marathon at the end of the day, especially in conditions such as this. You've got to hang in there and carry on. Of course, later on in the race, he will be handing over to Johannes Zelger as they now make their way down through towards the next right-hander. Carol Bash now confirmed P9. Bit of a tricky start for Matisse Lismont now, who's below Mikey Porter. Of course, Porter getting that move done. Santalok was starting a bit higher up in this classification. Unfortunately, now since witnessed a slight demise and are now being chased after by Jamie Stanley in accordance to our timing screen as well. Only half a second away from the Santaloc Audi, so they're going to be looking for a big recovery deeper into this first stint. But now the time gap starting to come down again between the top two. Fleming now 1.4. That's another 10th gained by Christopher Haase over the last lap, and by consequence again another fastest lap for Haase.
Very little separating them in terms of the lap time, so I think it was only about half a tenth in reality that separated them, both doing a 50.9.
Oh, I think Stanley's had a moment. Stanley's dropped down to 15th all of a sudden. Salakada and Dunner have managed to take him now, so that's 13th and 14th. And this, my goodness, that's is Aaron Walker behind
Steve Jans.
Steve Jans behind the wheel of it at the moment. Of course, Walker will be taking over later, but a swapper coming around the final bend.
Steve Jans, one of the two bronze drivers in the Pro-Am field to start this race. After starting with their Pro yesterday. I'm sure they didn't envisage conditions being quite this treacherous, but of course all the other Pro-Am runners, they'll be taking that quote-unquote pain later in the race. Mosca closing up on the back of Yannick Mettler now in the car barn by SBS Automotive Performance Mercedes, that again was on the podium yesterday for the second time this season. Mosca was Italian GT champion last year, coming into the International GT Open, and now taking it to a regular face in the International GT Open alongside Dexter Muller. Same can be said of Karel Bash and Marcin Jedlinski, who are still in their Audi after finally getting that 296 that they've been waiting for about 18 months, and have decided they're going to stick with the Audi for a little bit longer.
It's not the first time they've done it, though. I mean, they did move to the Mercedes at one time as well. They made big plans back in, I believe, the 2023 season, where they were opting to perhaps move away from the Audi and into Mercedes machinery. But they've always felt more comfortable with an Audi R8 LMS. And at the end of the day, if that provides the results in certainly the eyes of Karel Bash and Marcin Jedlinski, that must be the way to go. I mean, they've always had this dynamic where one pairing have the Ferrari, under their belt. Obviously, that is something that Stanislav and Christian Korzynowski harness regularly in the International GT Open. As now we witness the 51 of Tommaso Mosca on the jump against Yannick Mettler, who runs wide out of turn one, and that's a nice smooth move through there for Mosca, who now moves into 7th.
Yeah, Mettler just found
here comes Bash.
some of the wetter parts on the outside of the first corner, and then this is for class position as well. Second in Pro-Am now being disputed between Mettler and Bash, who's already moved past Babini. Those three cars in class now line astern on the racetrack, while Alex Fontana continues to lead in Pro-Am in 5th position overall. Mark Sampson continues to lead in AM, by the way, but only by a little bit ahead of Gino Forgione. As again, Mettler struggling in that SBS run Mercedes. He runs out wide, and that is a very easy move for Karel Bash to go through, and he takes 2nd position in class.
Yeah, difficult start to the stint here for Yannick Mettler, unfortunately, but looking to fight back, but now he's going to be faced with Fabio Babini. We've got side-by-side further back as well with Mikey Porter, Matisse Lismon, who is currently locked down in 12th. Porter getting the move done earlier on. A little twinkle from the left light here from Tom Fleming as he now takes a trip down into Sachs Corner at turn 12. Now, nursing the gap, it's advanced significantly. 1.3 since we last checked. 2.7 seconds as Bash displaces Mettler. We get confirmation on our timing screen that he's up to 8th. And Salakada getting displaced twice as well, with Dunner moving up to 13th. Jamie Stanley now up to 14th.
Steve Jans has been told he has to give a position back to Robert Visso-Yu. That is 16th at the moment. The problem they've got is that James Kell's in between them, so Steve Jans is going to have to yield 2 spots for that. We didn't see why that was the case, but Steve Jansen 16th at the moment. Looks like he's going to lose a couple of places here as he has to let Robert Visso-Yu back through. As Haase continues there in 2nd place. Then it's Gertz and Ralph Aron. There you can see how the gap has ebbed and flowed. The advantage for Fleming now 2.6 seconds.
Well, Gertz has finally managed to get time on Haase as well, so whether this is Haase trying to cool the tyres down, I think, but Fleming, regardless anyway, took the fastest lap of the race last time out and is nearly a second faster over the last lap, which nearly bang on a second, in fact, just over by 0.02 of a second. So credit to Fleming, who's now, like I said before, it was 1.4, it's now 2.6, but Babini through on Mettler as well now, so that is Pro-Am P3, and now 9th place overall for Fabio Babini.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see them through the picture shortly. It's closing up between Fontana and Ralph Aron as well, as Fontana was, well, it wasn't quicker on that previous lap, but so far on this one seems to be finding a little bit more confidence out there. Usually We would be expecting the Porsche to be running quite well in these sorts of conditions, but I think when it's this wet and everyone's on the full wet tyres, it sort of evens out the playing field a little bit more. When you've got a slightly damp track and you're running on slicks, that is when the Porsche really comes into its own. Of course, Fontana, not a factory driver as such, but very much affiliated with the Porsche brand and running his Alex Fontana Academy now, which his AM driver in this championship, Hash, is the sort of lead student of. He was very disappointed and upset with himself yesterday, spinning in the car and losing a potential podium. He was the top bronze driver in the category at the time. He's going to be faced with some very difficult conditions when he takes over the car later on. Driver change window doesn't open for another 11 minutes or so, and even then you'd expect a lot of these guys at the front of the field to push on for as long as possible. There's Laurent DeMeus just chatting away with the engineer. His pro driver Jamie Stanley currently 14th overall at the moment after losing a couple of positions on that previous lap. He's 6th in class at the moment, and he is running a slightly damaged car at the moment as well.
He gained back a place on Salicata, though, so he is trying to recover the damage that was done earlier on by dropping behind Dunner and Salicata, but Dunner is obviously a very fast driver as well, and this is the... Oh, wow, okay, so when we saw him drop down places, this might be the catalyst.
That was on the first lap.
Oh, okay, maybe slightly earlier then. So, yeah, some clear cosmetic damage. We take a look inside the Get Speed Mercedes.
Marcelo Ramirez just doing some warm-ups there ahead of his stint. He'll be taking over this green number 82
Very similar
car.
to my morning routine, I have to say. Not true, by the way.
Speaking of, we've been thinking a lot about drivers who've not raced in the wet so far this weekend. In the other categories we have racing here this weekend, and I'm just wondering if Marcelo Ramirez has done much running in the wet either. I know he's done some tests at Spa. I'd be surprised if they were all dry, but it could be in for quite a difficult race. Because he's in his first year of GT racing, and as I said, we'll be taking over this car later on. Starting to pull away a little bit more from Alex Fontana now. 1.1 seconds over the car collection Porsche and the Pro-Am leader, and it's really great news for him because he's now about 13 seconds clear of his nearest class rival, Carol Bash, and that 31 is now unhandicapped in the lead of that class, but so is the second place car in that category as well as Oregon. Here the Antoine Docan car, he's moved up to 22nd. Jerry
Canavicio
and Joey Canavicio there giving a nice wave. It might not be going so well in the race, but that's not going to take the smile off of their faces.
Regardless of how it goes, you can bet one thing: Jerry Canavicio has got multi-coloured trousers on, always.
Absolutely.
Philip Ugran up into 23rd as well. He'll be delighted with that. He's just jumped Mark Sampson, so places are being gained. I give credit to Ugran. He has been moving his way through the field after getting spun earlier on, or spinning under his own volition due to the weather conditions, and now starting to move his way past and up into 23rd. He's a little ways off his teammate, however. Docan still 9.8 up the road, and then Andrea Montemini further up in 21st, who had the coming together with Docan coming through turn 12, as we now right on board with the elite Ferrari. There is Tom Leben, was waiting for his start, well, his arrival into the car when the driver change window opens up. They had a wonderful campaign in GT2 last year. Of course, Leben becoming, shall I say, taking part in GT4, I should say, European Series, taking the title with Josh Rattican. And Leben now making a name for himself, this time in the International GT Open. An absolutely phenomenal competitor, looking to bring his very best. And they're currently sitting comfortably in 6th and looking to accrue yet another points finish to continue their 100% run.
For Tom Fleming, in his second year of GT3 racing, first year with Garage 59 and in that McLaren as well, he's holding back
He's doing
the guy who's been like the benchmark in this championship, basically,
well,
and the reigning champion. And this is stunning.
And if you actually look at the times on paper, there isn't a huge deficit between Marvin Kirchhofer, his teammate. When they both get in the car, there isn't a lot between them in terms of lap time.
And he's a McLaren factory driver.
So. And I actually asked the question to Marvin Kirchhofer, where do you see Tom Fleming going in the near future? And he believes that this young man has a bright future, and for good reason. You look back at the what he did in the Ferrari Challenge in the World Series, winning that straight out of the blocks in his first proper experience of GT3 racing, and then coming into the realms of GT World Challenge Europe. You know, he amassed, you know, finished fourth, 3 wins under his belt, came back after a horrific broken back injury in the GT World Challenge Europe. 7 weeks out, first race in, wins. That is a kid with a lot of talent and tenacity, I have to say.
Well, we are witnessing the awakening of Tom Fleming, perhaps here, 2.4 ahead of Christopher Haas at the moment. 5-second time penalty has gone out to Steve Yance in that Get Speed Mercedes that won in Pro-Am yesterday for contact with car 13. He was told to give the place back to Robert Visoyu. They haven't done so. He's been slapped with a 5-second time penalty. So he is now about 4 seconds ahead of that car. Anyway, and I think sometimes the teams just prefer to take the penalty and get on with the job, especially if they have to give back 2 places to satisfy the stewards. Mikey Porter here under big pressure from Matisse Lismont and Lucas Dunner in the Pro-Am Motorpark Mercedes. And Porter getting a little sideways, a little twitch through turn 10. Matisse Lismont, remember, his substitute in that Santalark Audi for Michael Blanchimont. And that's what's made it a pro entry for this weekend. And Lucas Dunner coming right around the outside of the Mobile 1 curve. That's astonishing stuff from the Austrian.
That's a very nice move from Lucas Dunner to pivot his car around Matisse Lismont. That's a Pro-Am car against a pro, making its way through. Of course, Lismont, a pro driver as well. Dunner, of course, representing the pro side of the motor park, pairing with Heiko Neumann, who'll be jumping in the car as the AM of the pairing later into the race. Of course, 5 minutes until the driver change window opens up. And Dunner consolidating that position in 12th, now chasing after Mikey Porter for Optimum Motorsport.
What I love about that, right, there was no, you know, oh, I was ahead at the apex, wow, wow, wow. None of that, just brilliant racing.
Yeah, just wonderful momentum there from Dunner. Now up into 12th, as confirmed by our timing screen. There's Jamie Stanley and his rear end added aero to the back of the AF Corsa Ferrari, and that's what looks to be another Audi going off. Now that is the checkout Audi.
Yes, the guest-entered car that's at the back of the grid and circulating quite a ways off the pace at the moment behind Stanislav Jedlinski, and so the leader's just coming through, but it's game on between 2 Mercedes factory drivers. Maxi Gertz, the DTM champion, Ralph Aron in the Get Speed Mercedes number 82. Remember, he was the driver who stepped away from working behind the wheel after his single-seater campaign and became a team manager at Prema for a few years before getting the opportunity to join the Mercedes junior ranks, and as of this year now a full-fledged factory driver, and he'll be representing them at the Nürburgring 24 Hours in a couple of weeks' time, as well as Maxi Gertz, who'll be doing the Spa 24 Hours. Again, busy few weeks coming up.
We talk about Paul Aaron obviously being an astonishing single-seater driver as well in his time. Obviously, you know, I mean, Paul Aaron still, I mean, he's with Alpine as a reserve, but you look at Ralph Aaron, what he's achieved in single-seaters. Italian F4 Winter Trophy champion 2014. The following year, he then went out and won the Italian F4 Championship. Truly remarkable on his part, before then joining GT World Challenge and eventually getting paired up with Rima Javali and Adam Christodoulou in a period of time where he then wanted to take on GT World Challenge. Of course, that was one experience that he had. Then moving in, of course, to ADAC GT Masters, where he was a runner-up in that championship in 2023. And just since then, he's been embracing GT3 machinery, just really cutting his teeth in this side of the sport, taking part in IMSA Sports Car and then GT World Challenge Asia. He is packing a huge CV together and now looking to land a blow to a driver that's already won a race this season in the International GT Open. It was the 500 at Spa, and his very first time of asking here alongside Levente Reves, a pairing that I'm sure will be taking this championship all the way to the final round at Monza. Of course, Gertz won't be going for the title. His teammate, however, Levente Reves, will be the one to take it if Gertz can provide him that opportunity.
Ralph Aaron is very much repaying the faith that Mercedes has put in him here by sticking on the back of Max Gertz, who has got probably the busiest race schedule I've ever seen for any driver. There is not a corner of this earth where he is not racing this year, over in the UK, in Asia, in Europe, in America as well.
And while they're both they're Mercedes guys, this is Motor Park v Get Speed now.
It is yet another great Mercedes team battle there between 2 very successful and cracking teams that we've had, with Motor Park getting their experience here in this championship as well, because this is where the GT3 campaign began for Motor Park, of course. which we have associated with single-seater racing for so long, especially in the Euro Formula Open Championship, but now really cutting their teeth in GT3 competition. And as I said, Lucas Dunner and Heiko Neumann, they'll be at the Road to Le Mans next week as well. And speak of the devil, there they are, with Dunner ahead of Lee Smart, but still on the back of Mikey Porter. And Yannick Mettler really coming under quite a bit of pressure now. He's fallen well off the back of Fabio Babini to the tune of about 5 seconds. This is that Greystone GT McLaren that Dean McDonald rather hurt the front end of yesterday, that then led to their retirement, their second retirement after the battery failure they suffered while leading the Spa 500. The championship campaign is very quickly coming undone for a car that we very much anticipated to be one of the favourites for the title this year, and James Kell at the moment running only in 18th position. But Mettler makes his way down the Parabolica. He still leads Porter and Dunner and Lismore, with Stanley trying to bridge that 1 second gap in front of him. So they're going to be coming up on the back of Navratil as well pretty soon. It gets pretty close into the hairpin, and the sun really starting to poke out now. And have you ever been driving down the motorway on a very wet bit of road, and then the sun comes out and you are blinded by the road in front of you?
As a Welshman, I've witnessed that many times.
Of course you have.
I can assure you. Many a time I spend driving down the M4 on the way to the airport as well, when we have to travel to the International GT Open weekends, of course. But yeah, we do experience plenty of wet weather in the UK, and this is what the drivers are experiencing. Now, is this the moment where we start seeing the conditions take a swerve? Because I'm seeing some of the patchy cloud, the grey stuff is starting to dissipate, and maybe some of the pearly whites are coming through, which will mean if the track does dry up as we see it coming together further down now. This is Lucas Dunner we're riding on board with. Porter now looking to go toe-to-toe, this time with Yannick Mettler. Now, if this track continues to dry, we're going to see a contrast in usage of tyres. They look to breeze past the 22 that is currently featured at the rear. And that's Navratil taking a bit of a, should we say, a difficult trip off to the off-road, coming through the final corner at 17. This might cause a slight complication as Dunner still looks to persevere after Mikey Porter. In comes, now that's interesting, driver change window on, in comes Korzanowski, early stop as you would expect, and now Christian Korzanowski will take the seat.
But were those slicks going on that car? I couldn't quite tell.
I'm starting to wonder though, Chris, because this is looking to me like the change conditions some of the drivers were fearing.
Well, it depends on how it dries up. We can see at this part of the track it's drying up very nicely indeed, but I think towards the far end of the circuit, it may not be the same case. Luca Ludwig about to get aboard the Motel Motorsport. Those are definitely wets going aboard the number 80. Maybe they're not feeling the need to take too much of a risk.
It's got to the point where every decision is a brave decision at this stage. You know, where you go on the wets, you know, you're risking the element to the dry. You go onto the dries, you're risking more rain. It really is a scramble. At the moment, I would say you're probably better off on the wets, but I'm looking down the straight, and there is a dry line really starting to appear now.
I mean, this looks very dry out here now. It does.
Honestly, you can see it right round this second. We've got a wonderful view of this final sector into Sector 1. Yeah, it's bone dry.
But if you go a millimetre off that on the slicks, you are done.
You're in trouble. You are in trouble.
You are Dunner.
You are certainly Dunner. Is this how far we're reaching now?
No, I won't let that happen. Right, side by side here with James Kell and
you'll have the viewers flamming at the mouth, mate.
Bartone getting around the outside of James Kell for 19th position. They're about to come across the guest entered Audi as well. Not too many cars diving into the pits. Not even the two Pro-Am cars with their AM drivers aboard, maybe because they're waiting for that opportunity. They think, it's so nearly ready for slicks. If we wait till the end of the driver change window in about 9 minutes time, maybe it'll be ready. But the cars are fanning across to the right-hand side, trying to find the wet stuff to keep those wet tyres in a cooler condition.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether even if you're an AM driver, down the inside now, here we have it coming together. Now this is Carol Bash and Babini once again. You can still see there is imminent spray still very much on the circuit right in that first sector, but just look at this dry line that they've created as well. And this is the element we've got to be concerned about, but Babini's going to get a lovely dose of slipstream here, coming down through towards turn 6. And bear in mind, this is over Pro-Am P2 right now. Bash holding on to it for the time being. Sticks his car right into the middle of the road. Back comes Babini now, looking for a cut back, but Bash doing very well to sort of subjugate the move and keep him at bay. But I have to say, it's brightening up. It's looking a lot more saturated out there now. Less water, as we now see it coming together now. Oh, wow, my goodness me. That's the 11 belonging to Max Gertz, I think. Yeah, Max Gertz.
It's Gertz making contact with Alfredo Hernandez.
Wow.
Moving across the road. Everyone's bringing all the dirt over on the curbing at turn 7. And Mettler here is...
Look at the contrast here.
Yeah, nearly getting a punt from the rear of Mikey Porter. So this is for 10th position overall. Mettler struggling in these conditions at the moment. Porter trying to get the better exit out of 10. Mettler comes across to defend that. Lucas Dunner's got a great view of this here. Porter on the inside at turn 12. They run side by side. They bang door mirrors, and Mettler gets squeezed out onto the curbing. Lucas Dunner says, thank you very much. I'll draw alongside you. And it's going to be very, very difficult to go all the way around the outside of the Sachs curve. That doesn't matter one iota to the Austrian, though he's still sticking it to the SBS car in front of him. But Mettler just about emerges in front, going through the little kink in the final sector. Still no sign of these guys bailing for the pits just yet, as a big sideways moment there for Matisse Lismont.
I mean, they are certainly going to take the entirety of this driver change period. I reckon that maybe even some of the AM drivers might even perhaps look to take it all away, because they don't know what the tyres are going to do. In comes Philip Ugran, Robin Rogalski in the car now this time. Babini back on Bash's tail. Bash forced to defend, but the up and under here for Babini as they take the run through towards turn 6. Out of turn 5, through this bend, coming through Parabolica. It's still wheel to wheel between the Porsche and the Audi R8 LMS in the hands of the Olymp racing man, Carol Bash, who will look, I'm sure he'll go late on the brakes. Will he not? No, Fabio Babini has his number. It's Pro-Am P2 now for Fabio Babini. He answers and replies to Bash's earlier overtake with one of his own, and that's further up in the points and on the Pro-Am podium. As far as Babini's concerned, great move.
8th position overall. Just look how much dirt they have brought across the racetrack here. They have been abusing that curbing out there. And look, it's splashing through there. That's going to be horrible on slick tyres later on as well. Well, probably horrible on these wets as well, as still Dunner looks at the back of the SBS Mercedes in front of him. Mettler demoted to 11th position on that previous lap by Mikey Porter, who, of course, another GT4 graduate in that Optima McLaren. Again, Mettler shuts the door here, maybe slightly too late.
That was some exit.
Dunner comes to the outside at turn 12. This is where Mettler was banging wheels with Porter on the previous lap. Mettler just about holds the advantage to the right-hander, but you get the sense that Dunner is running out of patience here. Really wants to get this move done.
He had a wonderful exit coming in towards turn 12, and that's what opened the door, really, for another go at Yannick Mettler. But Mettler, obviously so experienced, has obviously been part of this partnership with Dexter Muller for quite some time, certainly for as long as I've been commentating the championship. As Carol Bash in the gravel. He was, of course, fighting with Fabio Babini, and there's a 13 off as well.
Visoyu.
Robert Visoyu, who currently sits 18th, but will be in free fall. Here's the moment now. 2 separate incidents, it seems.
Yeah,
we believe.
He's got a slide on in the middle of the last 2 corners, and then as soon as one wheel touched that drag strip, there was no way he was saving that car, and
luckily,
it looks pretty
no impact.
beached. And this is Robert Visoyu. Is he going to get a helping hand here from Emery Bondwell? Indeed he is. So Bondwell pitching Robert Visoyu into a spin at the Sachs curve.
That's going to be a frustrating one for Motor Park. In comes the 77 as well of Alfredo Hernandez. Keeping my eyes on the tyres at the moment as well.
But George, if we've got yellow flags pretty much all the way through the final sector now because of that, as in comes Anthony Bartone. If you get a full course yellow now, you can still pit and get those slick tyres on if you want them. But what is on that? Are they slicks on the get speed?
It's hard to tell.
Mercedes, we really need to see the tyre changes actually happening to be able to tell. But
we need to start colouring the sides of the tyre.
Oh, that's a lot of wheel spin. That looked like slicks, I think, for Marcus Pavarud.
Yeah,
the way he lit those up.
And just look at this dry line. You can really see it here, folks, coming down the long straight and then into turn 1. Look at a lot of the drivers are following. Look at that. I mean, we got our race leaders following it. There's Christopher Haase. He's following it too. Pavarud now on his outlap. course, currently situated at the top of our timing screen at the moment ahead of Tom Fleming. Of course, I think that's just a correction that needs to come into play. But the incident involving cars 28 and 13 at turn 13 is under investigation.
And Visoyu's still there.
He is.
Dunner's got that move done on Mettler, by the way, and into 10th, well, he's now 10th position with some of the cars coming into pit lane. We've still got 4 minutes left on that driver change window. They're all playing in now. So yeah. Fabio Babini's come into the pit lane. In comes Mettler as well, Stanley and Salakada as well. So maybe, yeah, the leaders potentially wait to see what everyone else is going to do. And let's see.
Right, all eyes on the tyre compound.
Slicks are coming in. Right, let's keep a really close eye.
Those are
wets coming off. Oh, we didn't see what's going on. Let's keep an eye on
those are like slicks to me, if I'm honest.
Those are definitely slicks going on the SBS
I can't
Mercedes.
see any grooves.
Those are slicks going on the 54 for sure. Looks like slicks for Salakada as Libor Milota climbs aboard as well.
Here
I mean,
it
seems like an easy choice now, doesn't it?
Visoyu's car, I think, is actually moved, but it's moved deeper into the track. If you can just see it above the podium.
We're about to see it. Yeah, he's tried to move forward and is now blocking half of the racetrack. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like the exit of Sachs Curve, which is a bit treacherous. Luckily enough, you can actually see that out of apex part. He's moving again, just reversing the car. I'm looking at my commentary box window, everyone at home. And of course, Alex Fontana moving through. And now Robert Visoyu does indeed rejoin the race.
In comes Fleming from the lead of the race. The gap was 2.3 seconds to Christopher Haase. When he did so, there's enough time for one more lap, I think, before having to come on. So Marvin Kirchhofer will take over
They'll be serving 10.
Erstwhile leading car, and yes, that car will be stationary for an additional 10 seconds out there. And the front right is being changed, then that is definitely a slick tyre going on the front left. In comes Tom Emson for Tom Lebon over at Elite. Ralph Aron has continued on. Maxi Gertz has brought in the number 11. Levente Reves, the championship leader, about to get aboard that motorpark car. Alex Fontana's continued on as well. And we'll see, again, those are some wet tyres coming off. See the steam coming off of them as well, because, of course, they're running at about 80 degrees. Slicks going on that car as well. As the drivers who are still out there on wet tyres are desperately looking for some wet patches out there. This is the race leader, Christopher Haase, coming across. And either side of the Garage 51 car.
Hakkinen and Schumacher moment.
Mark Sampson, extraordinary stuff. And but that 26 car is the one that was started by Matisse Lismore, isn't it? Yeah, Marcus Pavrud. So we believe he was on slicks. Look how much of a hard time he's giving Christopher Haase.
Yeah.
Now, so
a lot faster on the slick tyres.
It looks that way, doesn't it? So unless they did change over for the West, let's see what the lap times.
Yeah, we want to see what the deltas are.
Well, Fabian Schiller is going purple in the first two sectors, as out comes Marvin Kirchhofer in the erstwhile leading car. So that Bartone Bros car that we think has got slicks on it is lapping. Oh my goodness, he's already about 3 seconds up on this lap alone.
And it comes Haase as well.
Here comes Haase now.
Yeah, in for a pit stop, so you have no doubt, folks, that slicks will be on the mind of many. But the question is, how much time did Haase lose in those final laps before coming in for his stop? And how much will that work in the favour of those that boxed early on this stint as well? Let's wait and see. In comes as well the SPS Performance Mercedes alike as well. That is the combination, of course, of Dominic Baumann. And look at that, he still can't box. He can't, but he's been blocked off. He could not box, so he stopped the car. In comes as well the 188. That's the AM Garage 59. But that is less than ideal for Easter Lent.
Extraordinary. I've not seen anything like that in this championship. So Haase finally gets out. And, of course, remember, they're taking an additional 10 seconds as well.
Here we go.
So let's see what's happened here. Oh, the BDR Grupo Prom car was being released
just as they came in
front of him. So that car is already investigation for punting Visoyu at the Sachs curve, and I'm sure they're going to get looked at for an unsafe release there as well. Extraordinary stuff, and of course the advantage for Kirchhofer as well. He's got a lap's worth of heat in those Michelin tyres as well. So I think Riker, even if he by some miracle came out ahead of him, would be a bit of a sitting duck. And see Carol Bash's Audi is still there in the gravel trap out at the final corner. The driver change window is officially closed.
Yeah, just to affirm as well, Stewart's decision on the car 28. That is Lewis Michael Dorbecker receiving a 10-second time penalty that will be added to the race time for causing a collision. That is, of course, I believe, linked to Robert Visoyu getting punted from the rear at turn 12 at Sachs Curve. So that was the BDR Group Prom. We saw just tag the rear, making their way through the final sector, and out they come this time around. Marcelo Ramirez, part of this as well, further back. Of course, Hash, currently sat inside the top 4 in accordance to our timing screen. Kirchhofer, though, unperturbed, still leads the race, and Riker 9.2. That is how much time Easterland lost. A convincing amount right at the get-go here of stint 2.
Tom Leben about to make the move on the Pro-Am leader, Hash. Of course, that's the bronze driver now aboard that car, so it'll be easy picking for him out there. And so he moves up into 5th position overall. Extraordinarily.
Oh, no, Hash! Oh my goodness, that's a huge... Oh, my
he's worked out the
goodness!
Mercedes as well. A huge shunt down at the hairpin. And lots of damage to the front right corner.
Oh.
The Gatsby Mercedes looking absolutely awful. The hood up as well. An absolutely mangled machine with fluid pouring out the front of it.
Yeah,
Need to get
needs
that
to pull
parked,
over.
Marcello.
Pull that over straight away. No visibility there for Marcelo Ramirez.
Safety car is deployed immediately. But
No question.
That was an extraordinary shunt between Hash and Marcelo Ramirez.
I mean, that is a huge impact coming into turn 6, and obviously hope that Hash is all okay in the car. Obviously, that was quite not just the initial impact in terms of the barrier, but then obviously making contact with Marcelo Ramirez on the return. There is Fontana. We can just see him in the car, just having words with the marshals.
It looks like the thumbs up was given there. That is extraordinary. Just lost it under braking and hits the barriers. And poor Marcelo Ramirez wouldn't have known what was going to hit him.
No, you wouldn't have even seen it, Chris. I mean, that is a huge crash, and that's 2 cars now.
Oh my goodness.
Just basically a flash just in front, and I'm sure, I'd imagine the elite car that Tom Leben was driving was probably a little bit shocked and surprised at that too.
So this is AF Corsa, the number 21 crew, seemingly making a second pit stop.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So they've boo-booed.
They boxed early, I'd imagine, at the very start.
The wrong call.
Yeah.
And they're now putting slicks on it. Good to see Marcelo Ramirez walking away from that one, of course, after a very strong start to the race from Ralph Aron. Poor Marcelo Ramirez barely got a chance to get going out there, but at the very least, he's walking away. Right, this safety car, as we see, a lot of debris down there at turn 6, but this safety car is great news for one Fabian Schiller, who was 35 seconds off the lead in 9th position and is now going to be brought right up to the back of them. And remember those 2 Pro-Am cars that started with their bronze driver that now have Aaron Walker and Dominic Baumann aboard. They've got an opportunity to start slicing through the pack.
And we know as well from the pit stop prior, as we take a look at the incident again, this is not Alex Fontana, of course, he handed it over to Hash. This was him coming back out onto the circuit after the pit stop. Collision there, then the impact with Marcelo Ramirez after the wall. Just an absolutely devastating impact.
There's just one slightly damper patch there still on the outside. He must have just put one of those wheels over. Oh God, at full speed, that is
doesn't get any better.
Terrifying.
Every time you look at it, really, does it? But I mean, hence the reason why we're now under this safety car situation. But yeah, going back to your point, Chris, about the time gains and those that have benefited, really, if you look at Riker, Ravesh, as well as Tom Leben, everyone basically have benefited off this, because Marvin Kirchhofer on exiting the pits, he had a 9.8 second advantage over Simon Riker when Riker left the pits. Riker obviously suffering that slow pit stop due to the fact that Haase could not even park it for the tyre change. They've managed to recover the damage that did and have brought that delta back in due to the safety car. So everyone, aside from Marvin Kirchhofer, have benefited from this safety car.
Right, let's run through the order then. 19 minutes to go. Marvin Kirchhofer leads in the Garage 59 car. Simon Riker is in 2nd place as we see some of the pit stop action. Levente Reves is 3rd for Motorpark. Tom Leben now 4th for Elite. Carl Bennett up to 5th for AF Corsa in the 51 car. Johannes Zelger leads the Pro-Am category in the 79 Tsunami Racing Team Porsche. It'll be a bit of a sitting duck with 3 pro cars right behind him. That is Zach Meekin for Optimum, Marcus Pavrud for Santolog, and Fabian Schiller for Get Speed in 9th. Then Dexter Muller is 2nd of the Pro-Am runners for Carbahn. Then Heiko Neumann in the 65 Motorpark car is 3rd in class. Fourth in class is Libor Milotta for the ISR Audi crew. Then Laurent de Meus in the 55 Audi. Then comes Dean McDonald. That might undo some of the damage for Greystone as well if they can get inside the points. Artem Petrov for Oregon. Aaron Walker is the first of the Pro-Am runners with their Pro now aboard the car in 16th overall. Lewis Michael Dahlbecker, Luca Ludwig in the Mertel Motorsports Ferrari, and then Dominic Baumann, the other Pro amongst the Pro-Am runners at the moment, is 19th overall. In the Am category, it still shows Michele Rugolo leading in Am in 21st overall, despite
the additional pit stop.
Well, did they do an additional stop, I wonder? Because this is saying... no, wait, that's a different column.
No, they did too.
They did do two.
Yeah, and they're not the only ones, because Robin Rogalski did too.
The same as well.
And so did Luca
That's
Ludwig.
astonishing. So how have they... Well, I guess they did do the second stop under the safety car, so they would have gained a little bit there. So Michele Rugolo for AF Corsa leads in Am, ahead of Alexander West in the Garage 59 188, and Alfredo Hernandez third.
And the safety car has also given an opportunity to Alexander West. Remember, Rugolo West, old teammates from many years ago in the International GT Open. They are going to meet once again here. Now, an unsafe release has been reported against car 28. So that's
the BDR Group car that blocked Christopher Haase in the pit lane, and that is in addition to the 10 seconds that Anne-Marie Bondwell accumulated for the contact with Robert Viso-Yu.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. So there we go. So this is truly astounding. Now, there's a huge opportunity here for Garage 59. I mean, I'm not talking about Marvin Kirchhofer here at this point, though he is still up at the front. We have confirmation from race control that cars 31 and 82, of course, we're talking about Marcelo Ramirez and Hash. They're out of the cars and they are okay, everybody. So that's great news. Obviously, we credit the marshals for their astonishing work, as they always certainly pull together on every race weekend in the International GT Open at every circuit across Europe that we do attend, and I'm sure marshals across the globe as well. Truly phenomenal job, and great to hear that they're okay. But yes, speaking of Garage 59, Marvin Kirchhofer, there is Tom Fleming after his very first stint. An astonishing job to open up the race for Garage 59 up until this very point. Kirchhofer looking to take this to the flag. He's going to be tricky to catch, but Alex West with every chance of bringing a second win in Am class as well for Garage 59. Should he be able to get past Rugolo?
Yes, and also I've just noticed the Dominic Baumann Mercedes is a lap down, because there it is. It's the silver and gold machine. So they are going to be...
They're down in 19th.
Yeah, 19th, but that's the best they're going to be able to do now when we get going again, because they've lost out onto this safety car. So in terms of the pros moving forward, we're really only now looking at Aaron Walker, because Baumann is now pretty much limited to a 19th place.
Well out of position, really.
Finish. So I wonder how that happened, because I know they came in just in front of Haase. But
just got caught under the safety car.
Would have come out behind Kirchhofer as well. So that's just really poor fortune for SPS there, sadly. So it will just be 7th in class for the championship leading squad. So that then gives Walker a great opportunity to take the lead in the Pro-Am standings today.
Right, just a note as well that the stewards or race control have asked car 79, that's Tsunami RT, Johannes Zelger, who currently stands 6th. That is our Pro-Am leader. The team manager has been asked to report to race control immediately. So whether we see a summary after that, I'm not quite sure. You know, sometimes from these meetings, penalties can be attributed. There could be a huge question mark over the Pro-Am lead deeper into this race.
Well, we said it was going to be dramatic, George.
We've got plenty of it.
Yeah, we certainly do.
Now, this does reaffirm the fact, though, and the drivers were spot on. Very likely we could have seen a mixed condition, mixed tyre race this afternoon.
At least this safety car is giving the drivers an opportunity to warm the Michelin rubber a little bit more at a sort of controlled pace, rather than trying to
and it allows the track to dry.
Box, straight away. Yep, they'll be drying the circuit every time they go around it as well. So Kirchhofer should have pretty clear running ahead of him, given the pace we saw from him yesterday, pulling away from the likes of Fabi Schiller. So could well be back-to-back victories for Garage 59. The question will be, can Simon Riker hold on to the podium ahead of Levente Reves? Of course, in his first year of GT3 racing in that number 11 Motorpark Mercedes, having come over from their Euroformula side of the garage. Can Elite Motorsport make it a third podium of the season as well? And back-to-back ones here at Hockenheim. Remember the 51 now, of course, the Ferrari hasn't been on the podium yet so far this season. It's not where we're used to seeing that team with their pro efforts. An all-new lineup for them this year.
And again, considering the brilliance, the likes of Carl Bennett, Tommaso Mosca have, they are two very accomplished drivers. We kind of pinpointed them at the start of the season to be perhaps one of the main contenders, the threats for the title, coupled with the likes of James Kell and also Dean McDonald.
What is Laurent de Meus doing here, running through the wet stuff? Is he still on wet tires?
Yeah.
Wow, that would be quite the boo-boo, wouldn't it, on this safety car restart?
Well, there's no recovery at this point.
No, that's it. He'll be at the back of the grid in 3 laps, I'd have thought.
If that is the case. Obviously, we don't know. He might have
speculating here because he's trying to go through the wet stuff, but you wouldn't be doing that on slick tires.
No, you wouldn't, no.
So, yeah. Well, a lot of discussions going on at BDR Grupo Prom, but a penalty-heavy race for them, unfortunately, today, with 15 seconds worth of time penalties accumulated. How many cars we got out of position here as well? So there's the SPS, there's the Oregon Lamborghini that's a lap down as well. Of course, these are all cars that Fabi Schiller is going to have to push through as well. Keep an eye on that red number 9 Bartone Bros Mercedes when the safety car comes in, because I'm expecting Fabi to start flying.
But he's going to have to. But it's not enough to get past the lap cars. You've got to get past as well Marcus Pavarud, Zach Meakin, Carl Bennett, Tom Levin, Levente Ravesh. There's a haul of names up there, and we know how brilliant Schiller is.
Oh.
And this was the warning, Chris. I mentioned this. Race Control did, of course, call the Tsunami RT team up to race control, and by the looks of it, as a consequence, an 8-second time penalty for serving less time than the handicap. So Johannes Zelger, at this stage, will forfeit the Pro-Am lead.
And they didn't have to serve any additional handicap in this race, so that's just basically not respecting the minimum pit stop time. So Johannes Zelger, the Pro-Am leader, slapped with an 8-second penalty. Now this, in terms of it being for the lead, could be moot anyway if Aaron Walker is able to charge up the order. Of course, he's got 2 pro cars in front of him. That might complicate things. Expect all 3 of them really to make their way through the bronze drivers in front of them. We're now down to 11 minutes left on the clock, and hopefully we will squeeze in a few laps here at the end. Obviously, there was quite a lot of debris down at turn 6, and of course, I believe Carol Bash's Olymp Audi was still at the final corner when the safety car was deployed as well. So there were multiple parts of the racetrack that needed attention.
I mean, I can imagine that this safety car is giving Race Control an opportunity to kind of sit down and assess everything in a controlled manner whilst the race is in full flow.
Safety car in this lap.
Yeah, we are getting confirmation. Safety car now starting to peel away from the front runners now. So Kirchhofer will be essentially the safety car taking us into the closing stages of this very lap. So we'll be back under green flags in the final, well, probably around 9 minutes of racing ahead of us. We're just crossing the final 10-minute mark now, so it's going to be all on Kirchhofer. I'll tell you what, you're going to be in for a blockbuster finale to this race, folks, because one thing we can say for sure, obviously Simon Riker there as well, East Talent looking to fight for another big result. Obviously they've been taking some good points all season long at tracks where they probably didn't necessarily think they were going to be the best at in comparison to perhaps other cars. And further back, Levente Ravesh, who is looking to progress his title hopes, already twice a race winner this season, looking for a magical number 3, and it could be in touching distance, but he's got to try and take down a McLaren Works driver to get there.
Very tall order for the Hungarian racer. Of course, home race for him in a few weeks' time when we head to Budapest. Be about 8 minutes left on the clock when we get going again. Marvin Kirchhofer lets the safety car go. No weaving at this point on the restart. And when will Kirchhofer put his foot to the floor? Remember the restart that Christopher Haase got last year, where he left the field for dust by going in the middle of the Sachs curve and waiting for a moment where Eddie Cheever was braking. Now that looked like a bit of smoke coming out of the back of Alfredo Hernandez's car. Hopefully that was just some spray. from the gold Mercedes out there, but Kirchhoffer's gone for it. He's bolted at the front of the field. He's pulled a couple of car lengths over Simon Riker. Rivest close on the Audi's tail as well in that battle for second place. 8 minutes left on the clock, and it's Garage 59 that leads with Marvin Kirchhoffer at the wheel, and he's managed to pull a decent advantage over Riker. It's 1 second he leads by when they go over the timing line. Ravesh following in the wheel tracks of the reigning champion, with Tom Leben in hot pursuit as well, going for back-to-back podium finishes in the elite Ferrari. Riker defends to the inside. Now everyone's got to be so careful. Do not put any of your tyre on a damp bit of racetrack, and Ravesh just found that out the hard way. He lit up the rear tyres coming through turn 3. That is going to incentivize Tom Leben an awful lot down this front straight. Schiller's already made up 2 places into 7th. Watch out for him as he storms through the pack in the remaining 7.5 minutes of this race. Riker's managed to hold on to second place going into the hairpin, and there are those 2 lapped cars, the Mercedes and the Lamborghini, out there behind or ahead of the Ferrari as well. Carl Bennett's going to have to try and usurp those 2 cars if he wants to get in on this fight. They go through the mud that's been picked up onto the circuit at turn 7, and Riker still holding on to this place ahead of Ravesh.
Yep, still a dirty track in places, but the drivers making their way around it very well indeed. Tom Leben just waiting for his opportunity to perhaps unlock the door, and a little warning shot fired this time as a little bit of debris gets flicked up once again. Levente Ravesso still holding on to 3rd, but Tom Leben using every bit of the racetrack now as Schiller gets confirmed 6th place.
There he
Johannes Zelger dropping down to 8th with Pavarud in 7th. And
that's Walker.
Walker! Aaron Walker has come to a grinding halt, and there again, the BDR Grupo Prom 28. They've had a poor day today, just spearing into the side of Aaron Walker on their way through towards the next left-hander, coming through out of turn 9 in towards turn 10. That is a miserable way to bring your race to a grinding halt.
Well, Walker was supposed to be the one making progress in the Pro-Am field, and now he's going to be tumbling down the order, I would have thought. As, he's down in 17th position as Lewis Michael Dorbecker has pulled over to the side of the road in between turns 1 and 2.
I think that's Alfredo Hernandez's car. I think that was the 77. I could see on the front of the windscreen. So he's currently halted. He's been there for a little while, I think, but...
because they were right next to each other on the road. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, no, I was looking at it down the straight because I was looking at the same thing, but it said 77, so that does look like it was Alfredo Hernandez as they peel off down through towards turn 6. Tom Leben still looking to go a little bit closer.
Still
behind Tom, still behind Levente Raves as they now make their way out of turn 6 now. Next up, they got a trip through turn 8 and turn 9. Kirchhoffer now 2.6 ahead of Simon Riker, who is effectively now becoming a cork in the bottle for Levente Raves, almost feeding him to Tom Leben at the moment to try and ask perhaps the elite racing Ferrari to give him a helping hand.
Double waved yellows up ahead. That for Walker, I wonder? Oh, can't see the green flags there now, but yellow flags out at turn 1 and turn 11. But I imagine Walker's parked up somewhere out of shot. No, in fact, Walker's come into pit lane.
He has,
so,
yeah.
That's probably just debris out there that's being recovered. Riker continues to hold second place ahead of Raves.
Schiller putting in a purple middle sector again. He is on a flyer right now, just trying to hoover up as many points as he can.
Is this another 10-second time penalty for the 28?
Well, that was the one that took out Aaron Walker. So
those were 2 separate incidents.
They were 2 separate ones.
So Alfredo Hernandez has parked up of his own accord for some other reason. The contact we did see
it's still 28.
Was with the 20. Oh my goodness! So that's now 25 seconds of penalties that car has accumulated. Extraordinary. So yes, contact between Lewis Michael Dorbecker and Aaron Walker, and then the Alfredo Hernandez car just parking up elsewhere. George, is it raining again? Does it look like it's raining again? It's side by side now for 3rd position, though. The rain is definitely coming down, and Levente Raves is under pressure for his podium spot, with Tom Leben pulling to the outside
line. The wipers
line.
are on, Chris.
Yeah, the wipers are very much on. They've got to be so careful, because now the grip is going to be decreasing every time they turn the wheel.
Artem Petrov, as well as fought his way back inside the top 10 as well.
Extraordinary.
He's overtaken Oregon. Remember, they had both cars. One went into the gravel trap after a major collision with Jamie, I believe, well, it was earlier on, but we got a big cluster here now. And look at this. I believe that's the car that was driven, that's being driven by Alexander West up the inside. There's the Greystone of Dean McDonald. There you can see as well Dexter Muller.
The Pro-Am lead fight.
Yeah, and the Pro-Am leader is Dexter Muller right now. If you accrue the penalty together that Tsunami RT have, as we now watch them come down through towards the braking zone at turn 9, and this is just a mishmash right now. The Tsunami RT coming under fire. There's Dexter Muller. He has a chance to take the Pro-Am lead out on track, and around the outside coming out of turn 10, it will be Dexter. Dexter Muller moves up into the Pro-Am lead. Fantastic move.
Libor Milot's got both of them
he
on that
snatched
lap.
it.
So it's Muller second, and Zelga starting to fall through the pack. Remember, he's got that 10-second penalty anyway. There's Luca Ludwig in the Mertel Ferrari as well, the white and blue machine, trying to find his way through as well. That pro-entered car. This is an extraordinary end to the race. ISR on course for their first win in class in the championship. It was only one podium finish, and Muller very nearly lost it down to the final corner.
He said he did. He ran a little wide coming through turn 16, and he paid the price at turn 17 as a result. But yes, you're absolutely right, Chris. ISR Audi now with the current Pro-Am lead is now up the inside. Goes the 80 of Luca Ludwig, obviously part of the Pro class. So that's a very different fight going on there as we now watch the Easterland Audi of now Simon Riker coming under fire from Levente Reves again. Now this is over the second place overall with just 2 minutes and 25, and there's an AF Corsa running wide. I think that's Bennett. Carl Bennett running extremely wide coming out of turn 6 through towards turn 7 and 8. Dean McDonald inside the top 10. He's overtaken Milotta now, who still owns that Pro-Am lead. He's now coming under fire as well from Luca Ludwig at this stage. There is just a colossal soiree of fights throughout the entirety of this field at the moment. 2 minutes to go, and Kirk Kerfer is the only one who is really in an area of solitude right now.
Oh, Ravesh, I thought he was going into the gravel there, and that's given Tom Leben a run here, heading towards the Sachs curve. It'll be 1 lap to go then when we cross the stride, but what a treacherous last lap it will be with the rain coming down once again. Hockenheim, you have kept us guessing all
It's coming down
weekend
harder, Chris.
long. This is extraordinary. They're struggling so much for grip out there. Every turn of the wheel is a new twitch to have to try and deal with. 4.5 kilometers to go in this race. It's anybody's game for second place. Riker leads them in that battle over the line for the final time. Reves still in second. Schiller up to 5th now as well, ahead of Carl Bennett. Maybe this battle for the podium is just out of reach on the final lap now. Here comes Leben again to the outside. He'll try and straighten up the car nice and early to go down the Parabolica for the final time. Riker has been doing an extraordinary job to keep these drivers at bay as they head down here for the final time. Dean McDonald up into 9th position as well. Greystone back into the points. What's going to happen when we get to the hairpin for the final time? This might be the last major overtaking opportunity. Somehow they're still in that same order. Ravesh trying to find his way through, but he can't.
No, he can't. At the moment, it's still Riker holding on to second. This would be an unreal performance here from Simon Riker to bring this car home in second place in back-to-back races this weekend at Hockenheim to continue their great run. This is Luca Ludwig.
Oh, they're all off the road.
Oh, my goodness. And that, it looks like it's barrier bound. It certainly is. Luca Ludwig now buried inside the grass, but it's all on Riker. He has to defend this second place to maximise his points against Kirchhofer. This was the maximum that Easterland were chasing here at Hockenheim in race 2. They're looking to do it back-to-back, but Reves is going to try and push them right through these final corners. And look at Leben in behind, Chris.
Yellow flags out to the penultimate corner as well. That might help matters. That might help just keep things the way they are. We're running out of opportunities here as they come through the final sector for the last time of asking. Just keep it on the road. Meanwhile, absolutely unstoppable. Garage 59, Marvin Kirchhofer and Tom Fleming take back-to-back victories and a perfect weekend here in the International GT Open. It's Riker in second place for the second time this weekend, and only 0.2 of a second ahead of Levente Reves, who's back on the podium for Motorsport. Tom Leben just missing out on the rostrum by just over 1/10 of a second. Fabi Scheller in 5th for Get Speed. What an extraordinary race.
Truly one of the races of the season, I would say, Chris. What an astonishing win. Once again, Garage 59 making it McLaren's 23rd win in the International GT Open as a manufacturer, and Garage 59 have accrued their 4th win. They join the likes of GPC Corsa, Imperiale Racing, JMB, SPS Automotive Performance, and Vittoria Competizione. But what an astonishing moment indeed. Simon Riker, I would say, if you're Easterland, you're counting that as a victory. That is a massive, massive bout of points towards their championships. They look to beat down Levente Reves. I mean, this title fight is going to continue to shrink And again, the points gap has been reduced between Rivest and Riker and Haase in this moment
and
in
you
time.
have to treat it as a win because this Garage 59 car is not a full season entrant.
No, that's right.
But that is a perfect weekend. 2 pole positions, 2 victories as
and they
well.
won Am as well. If not,
they did yesterday. But in the Pro-Am, it is ISR for the first time in the GT Open. Libor Milosa and Philippe Salakada take the victory ahead of Dexter Muller and Yannick Mettler, with Heiko Neumann and Lucas Dunner completing the podium there. Let's go through the 4 results then. A perfect weekend for Garage 59 overall with the victory. Riker and Haase second once again this weekend. Rivest and Gertz holding on to the championship in 3rd position, and Elite Motorsport just missing out on the podium there. Bartone and Schiller up to 5th ahead of Bennett and Mosca. Mikey Porter and Zach Meek in Proximum in 7th, and then Santalok in 8th. Greystone up to 9th in the end after a difficult day. Oricon, though, coming from the lower regions of the bottom 20 into 10th. Team ISR on the top step of the Pro-Am podium for the first time ahead of the Carl Barn crew of Dexter Muller and Yannick Mettler, with Heiko Neumann and Lucas Dunner for Team Motorpark completing the podium. Johanna Zelga falling down to 4th in the end with that time penalty. Laurent Demeus and Jamie Stanley 5th in class ahead of Pierberg and Baumann. And then AF Corsa taking the AM win with Gino Forgione and Michele Rugolo ahead of Stanislav Jedlinski and Christian Korzanowski, with another podium for our guest entered number 22 machine, a full-in race by Interaction, with Samson and West just missing out there in the end. We saw contact for Aaron Walker, Luca Ludwig in the barriers, contact for the BDR Grupo Prom. Guys, it's 2 DNFs for them. We lost Marcello Ramirez and Hash in spectacular fashion. We lost Robert Viso-Yu early on and Carol Bash just before the driver change window. That was an extraordinary race.
If I'm not mistaken, Chris, I think this means Easter Lent Audi take the lead of the championship by a single point, I think, coming off the back of this particular race. We'll have to double check, but I'm working it out on my notes right now. It's close, but we'll have to review it.
I'm trying to do the mental arithmetic myself. Hopefully we'll get the points. Some local words exchanged there between Christopher Haase and Marvin Kirchhofer.
It's been astonishing home weekends though for both drivers. I mean, really, if you look at it, I mean, for Kirchhofer, massive, of course, only being called up on Thursday night at 10 o'clock in the evening to then attend free practice on the Friday, and then all of a sudden come out of the weekend with 2 poles and 2 victories. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, does it?
Track he said he hasn't driven on for 4 or 5 years as well, since his single-seater days. Extraordinary stuff, and I think this is a very clear arrival for Tom Fleming, and of course Marvin Kirchhofer going over to congratulate Heiko Neumann, his good friend, who he does a lot of work with. Of course, they're on the Pro-Am podium with Lucas Dunner. It's Levente Rivest and Maximilian Gertz for Team Motorpark, 3rd after an extraordinary 60 minutes of racing here in Hockenheim. 2nd place for the 2nd time this weekend goes to the reigning champions Simon Riker and Christopher Haase aboard the East Talent Racing Audi. But completing a perfect weekend, 2 poles and 2 victories for Garage 59. Marvin Kirchhofer and Tom Fleming are with Alfredo.
Yeah. Hello, guys, again.
Hello.
Same Sunday like Saturday. Wet, though. How was the start?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little less grippy than it was out in qualifying. But yeah, once we settled into the race, got into a good rhythm, everything went really well. Car performed excellently, so did Marvin in his 2nd stint. And yeah, we've had a clean sweep this weekend. Couldn't be happier. The team's done an amazing job throughout the weekend and produced an amazing product for us. So a big thank you to them and McLaren for giving us one hell of a wagon.
Good. And same script today, a safety car in the middle of the race, and then you had to finish.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. It might look a bit easier from the outside than it actually was, because we had the wiper failed in the early start of the race. So another point why Thomas did such an amazing job. I mean, he kept it on track, kept it in the lead, no wiper in the heavy rain, And when I got in, the visibility was pretty poor, especially then in the end. You didn't really know where it was raining, like you could see the raindrops, but it was literally just going with your feeling, and it was a bit slippery here and there, but super pleased with the result.
Good. Well done then.
Thank you.
Nice weekend. All the best.
Yeah.
Well, let's try and squeeze this into a couple of minutes. It was Tom Fleming who led in the early stages ahead of Christopher Haase with Alex Fontana in third, and a very, very wet start to the race. Antoine Tocan found the gravel after contact with Andrea Montemini, and the other Oregon car also finding the drag strip on the outside. Philip Ugran skating off the road. Christopher Haase found a BDR Grupo Prom Mercedes right in his path when he wanted to come into the pits. Then we had a safety car. This horrendous accident for Hash, losing the back end of the Porsche and making contact with Marcelo Ramirez, dropping Hash out of the Pro-Am lead. Thankfully, though, both drivers managed to get away from it unscathed. When we went racing again, it was close with raindrops falling, but that was of no consequence to Marvin Kirchhofer and Tom Fleming, who made it a perfect weekend in the International GT Open. And only a couple of tenths separating those finishing on the podium and those who missed out as well. An extraordinary drive from everyone on the rostrum, but a perfect weekend for Garage 59. 2 wins and 2 victories overall for Marvin Kirchhofer and Tom Fleming. Well, Tom Fleming just confirming what I was saying to Marvin Kirchhofer. But, well, onto the podium now, and it is a third podium of the season for Levente Reves. His first time on the podium, not on the top step, in fact. And for Maxi Goertz, of course, the second one. But for Chris Vassar and Simon Riker, a 4th second-place finish of the season. And according to our mental arithmetic, means they now lead the championship going into Budapest. But here's the British national anthem for Garage 59. An extraordinary weekend for this team as the trophies are handed to the third place drivers, Levente Reves and Maxi Goertz, proving to be a very formidable combination this season. For the championship fight closing up with another second place finish for Simon Riker and Christopher Haase. The win still eludes them this season, but if you think back to the year that East Talent won the team's championship in 2023, the one win was all they needed, as the trophies are handed by Jesus Pereira, CEO of the GT Sport organization, to Marvin Kirchhofer and Tom Fleming once again.
Yeah, just alluding to some of the points as well. Obviously, we were questioning whether Simon Riker and Christopher Haase could take the lead of the championship. It's, I'm afraid, not just yet, but it's very close. Revesh still, in my view, holding on to it. Of course, we'll get official confirmation later on, but a massive performance for Garage 59 this weekend. They should be absolutely thrilled with that one, but it definitely seems like the championship contenders are starting to converge when we look at Ps2 and Ps3 on this particular podium right now. And can I just say, also, Levente Reves, new life in GT3 machinery, seems to be going well.
Certainly does, and just goes to show, doesn't it? If you want to make a successful career, welcome to GT and sports car racing. A message to any young drivers out there who are fed up of spending millions on single-seater racing and finding no progress. There is a home for you, places like this. Big smiles on the faces of the ISR drivers, but onto the podium now comes Heiko Neumann and Lucas Dunner. Their first podium of the season, astonishingly, in Pro-Am. And Heiko is very, very happy with that, of course, as well. They'll be heading to the road to Le Mans, I believe, probably tomorrow, or even tonight, I'd have thought. It's going to be quite a quick turnaround for them. Back-to-back podiums for the 54 crew. This time it's second place for Yannick Mettler and Dexter Muller. But for the first time in the International GT Open, it's ISR on top. Philippe Salakada and Libor Milota in their second year in this championship. They managed to bag a podium finish last year in Barcelona, having moved over from Eastern European competition. They've won plenty of titles over in that region, but now on the top step in GT Open as well for the Czech pairing.
Yeah, wonderful to see some new faces on the top step there. Smiles beaming, as you can see, on the faces of Philippe Salakada, Libor Milota. We've seen them a few years now, over the last couple of campaigns anyway. And wonderful to see them take the top step for the first time. And Dexter Muller, Yannick Mettler continuing their journey with the International GT Open. Looking forward to their next episode of the documentary, which I'm sure will be one to celebrate once again as the champagne gets sprayed, and one that ISR Audi are going to remember for a long, long time.
Yeah, full send baby.
Look at Heiko Neumann. Oh,
But
Lucas.
but that
how
is-
could you?
That's the happiest we've seen Heiko in a while on that podium.
Unbelievable.
Well, he's going to have to give Lucas back at some point.
Deary me.
So we'll move on shortly to the AM podium, and a rare appearance for Stanislav Jedlinski there on the right-hand side, the oldest driver in the field.
Second
Now
today in class two.
74, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure he celebrated the 75th just yet, but I think the last time they were on the podium would have been 2023, I think. No, they must have got one last year. I'll double check that at some point, but it is, again, another podium for the Fullin race pairing of Peter Fullin and Yuri Navratil.
Good weekend for the Czech teams.
Yes, absolutely, and their guest entry for this weekend, Stanislav Jedlinski and Christian Kovzanovski, second in class, and the winners, Michele Rugolo and Gino Fulgioni, for the second time this season, the first time since the very first race of the season back in Portimao. They've had a string of podium finishes since then, and this will help to them to close the gap to Mark Sampson and Miguel Ramos in the lead of the championship. I believe that should close up to about 2 points. Now, just doing my mental arithmetic.
Yeah, Championship CEO Jesus Pereira was presented the trophies to P2, and now we have the winning trophies presented to Michele Rugolo and Gino Fulgioni. But an incredible race, and I look forward to Hungaroring, Chris.
We certainly do. The first weekend of July, the 5th and 6th, where the International GT Open will celebrate its 300th race. We'll see you in Budapest.